Hey, so I just finished Yakuza Kiwami, and I wanted to talk about my thoughts on the Yakuza franchise so far. So I started this series by playing Yakuza 6 because I'd always wanted to play the Yakuza games, but Yakuza 6 had Japanese pro wrestlers in it, and I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so I started with that one. I was just like, screw it, I can probably just start wherever. I've since played Yakuza 0, and now Kiwami is the third one I've played. I think of all of the ones I've played thus far, Yakuza 6 is the best. I know that because I played it first, that probably comes with a grain of salt. But I think that thematically and narratively, it's the most coherent and cohesive and the most interesting. I would actually say, in terms of coherency and cohesiveness, it's probably on the same level as Yakuza Kiwami, but Kiwami is very generic in terms of its sort of like crime, family mystery sort of thing. Whereas Yakuza 6 was more specifically, it's like set in that same, world, but it's specifically about legacy and moving on, and like it's a real testament to what the series. I know I haven't played the rest of it, so forgive me for my pretentiousness, but it's a real testament to what the series managed to do with a character like Kazuma Kiryu, who I know for some is not always the most compelling character because he's basically Superman. He's just like the most just person in an unjust world. But it really demonstrates, sort of the impact that Kazuma Kiryu has had on this world, and what it means to sort of leave a legacy like that, just as a person. Yakuza 0, which I played next, definitely had more variety and a lot of stuff going on. And I think narratively, it's probably easier to follow than the rest of them. But when I think about it now, especially having played Yakuza Kiwami, the the thing that I think Yakuza 0 does best is establish the character of Goro and really like give some backstory to why Majima has this fixation on Kiryu, and why he's so fucking insane. I think without that, I know that they added more stuff relating to Goro into Kiwami than was in the original Yakuza game. I don't even know if he was in the original Yakuza game, but I think if I had played Kiwami without playing Yakuza 0, I would think that Goro was like a blight on the game. Like, this character makes no sense. His motivations, like, I know that, I get that that's the point, like that he's a bit insane, but I would be like, this character is on screen the most charismatic and interesting thing going on, and yet we know nothing about him or why he's here. Whereas having played Yakuza 0 and now playing Kiwami, it I actually think Goro is like the most fascinating character in the game, uh, because the extent to which he dedicates his life to getting the most out of Kiryu Kazuma, um, after the events of Yakuza 0, really like emphasizes the emotional impact that the events of that game had on him. And I was thinking maybe that I would like Yakuza 0 more. It's actually my least favorite of the ones that I've played. I was thinking that I might like Yakuza 0 more if it was just Goro, but I really do think that like playing as both of the characters of as Kiryu and as Goro really adds a fascinating contrast between them that highlights Goro's character arc even more than it would be otherwise. So I do think that Kiryu's story and his side of things really does help that sort of message come through. And also, without it, the ending where they sort of like meet up wouldn't be as like, you wouldn't get that moment, and that moment is kind of what the game has been building to the whole time. So I like Yakuza 0 way more now that I've played Kiwami. Kiwami, as I said, I think it is very straightforward. I don't know. I don't think the original game was as big as Kiwami is. Like Kiwami is a huge game. There is so much content, like narrative content, when you include the sub stories in that game. It feels like it took me way longer to get through it all than either of the other games. Which is funny because you only play as Kiryu and you're only in the one city. But really, I am starting to appreciate the efficiency of the design of these games. They've told three thus far for me incredibly interesting and compelling stories. Even if I don't know what's going on all the time, I'll be honest, I lost track of a lot of who was who in Yakuza Kiwami because I played the first few chapters 3 years ago and I didn't keep playing until today. But it didn't matter because I think what is so excellent about those games is the sort of character arc, which is an interesting thing to say with a character like Kazuma Kiryu, who is kind of just Superman, but it's sort of like how he changes the people around him. Regardless, you can follow sort of the emotional arc of these games without being able to keep track of who is specifically who at all times. And the fact that it gets so much out of these simple systems, and the games are at least the single player the storyline content. It's all single player, but the storyline content is just made up of these bricks of fight scenes and then really long cutscenes. You think that would get tedious and stale after a while, and in Yakuza 0, I actually felt like it did a little more, but in the other games, the variety of the context gives these combat puzzles is actually fascinating. And I wish there were more games like this that were more laser focused and reused assets from each other to be able to tell longer, bigger stories with like more intense and vibrant cinematics. Like, could you imagine if Naughty Dog, the next Naughty Dog game, was based entirely within a city that they had already built all the models and assets for? They already had all the character models, and they could just focus on scripting cutscenes and like animation and programming AI or whatever. I mean, even these games probably use the same enemy AI in most of them. You could just make content with the materials you've already developed. Like, that would be incredible. The sort of achievements that a team of that talent and that scope could make. Anyway, that is all I have to say so far, and I'm looking forward to starting Kiwami 2 at some point. I don't want to do it right now. There's part of me that really wants to because I've been so addicted to Kiwami right now, but I feel like I should take a break and play something else because otherwise I'll just get stuck in a rabbit hole. Okay, bye.